Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Jason. I am your watch guy today. Today I am reviewing one of the more hyped pieces on the Aliexpress sale this year, and it's one of the more hyped pieces because it follows a homage from one of the more hyped releases of the year. I'm of course talking about Pagani Design's homage to the Tudor Ranger. Now the Tudor Ranger is a watch that is steeped in history. It was actually trademarked back in 1929 by Hans Willdorf, and if that doesn't say history to you, I don't know what will. But today we're talking about Pagani Design. This one has been sent to me by the Pagani Design flagship store on AliExpress. I've linked them in the description. Now they have very kindly provided me with a discount code for $10 off your purchase. I've also linked that in the description. Make sure you use that if you're purchasing this watch, because we all know that we like to save money here. Now, how does this homage stand up to the historic Tudor Ranger? Well, let's turn the camera around and let's find out. Okay, so we all know what this is, don't we? This is Pagani Design's homage to the Tudor Ranger. Now, the Tudor Ranger has been a massively popular watch over the last few months with the re-release from Tudor. Now, funny enough, Tudor's Ranger line really does have a massive history. Wilsdorf actually copyrighted that name back in 1929. Now, the real first recognisable Ranger that we actually saw that will relate to this piece also was in the 1960s, and that was probably my favourite iteration of the piece. Now, they went on to make really colourful chronograph versions, etc, etc. And the Ranger was very much the answer to Rolex's Explorer for me. Now, the re-release of the Tudor Ranger comes as I think it's the 70th anniversary of the British North Greenland expedition. And that's why you'll see all those really weird, massive orange trucks next to these in displays. But we are not reviewing the Ranger today. We are reviewing Pagani Design's PD-1751. This has been sent to me by the flagship store on AliExpress. Now, in the sale, it's available for £100, and I think that does display a good amount of value. But today we are looking to see it in depth a little bit more, and maybe point out a few things that you maybe want to be aware of before a purchase. Now let's talk about the dimensions. Firstly, it is 36.5mm in diameter. It is 13.8mm thick, including that domed sapphire crystal. Lug to lug, it comes in at a very short 44mm, and these lugs are 20mm lugs. Now we have a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces on the casing of this piece. It is 316L stainless steel. As you can see, the fixed bezel is high polish, which actually differentiates from the Ranger model. That one would have a brushed bezel. We have brushed upper lugs to the casing, and this rather thin yet long screw down crown. Now this crown is signed with the Pagani Design logo. It is an NH35 movement, so we do have a ghost date position on this one. Second position is for the handset, of course. Screw that one back in. Yeah, it's strange that we've seen these smaller crowns start to pop up on Pagani's. I don't know where they've come from. It is signed with the Pagani Design logo, and it sits between the high polish side. Now there's some nice curvature to the lugs on this piece, which really does aid in the wearability of it. Pagani have opted to switch back to the usual display case back on this piece, and that displays the NH35 movement. In the back there, usual information around the outer edge, including the material, water resistance and model number. We do have a domed sapphire crystal in this one, and as you can see, as I expose it to the light a little bit more, you can see that it does have a level of anti-reflective coating. Now the dome on this one is actually quite high. It does add a lot to the height of the watch, and it does distort the dial slightly. Gives it a little bit more of a vintage aesthetic. However, it is a very high dome. Now altogether, this casing provides the watch with 200 meters of water resistance, and I think that's perfectly suitable to the piece. I'm pretty sure that the Ranger actually has 100. I may be wrong there. I'm sure you'll correct me in the comments, please do. Now as we move into the dial, we have a gloss black dial with these aged Lume indices throughout. We have Arabic numerals at the 12, 3, 6 and 9, and I am a big fan of an Arabic numeral on a dial, especially in this type of fashion. Up until 12 o'clock, we have the Pagani Design logo that is applied to the dial and is not followed by any text. Automatic, 200 meters down at the 6 o'clock, and either side of that 6 numeral, we have Japan movement. Now, completing the rest of the hour indices, we have batons in the same aged aesthetic. There on the outer edge of the dial, we have a very standard thin baton minute track throughout. As we move on to the handset, you can see that is very much the classic Ranger handset. Now, the first time we did see that was in the 60s model, and obviously this one has become quite synonymous with the homages that we've seen popping up at the moment. We've even seen this one on an Islander collaboration with the Urban Gentry, which is apparently not a homage, but I think it's a homage. I won't go into that. I won't bite. The handset is really nicely completed by this sweeping second hand. The real classy touch to that is the red tip beyond that paddle. I really do like that. The rest of the handset is completed in a border of stainless steel effect. Now, this piece is loomed, and the loom is always a talking point on a Pagani. So let me get the lights out and let's have a look at how it fares this time around. Okay, so our loom signature on this one is much better on the dial itself. The handset, however, does leave a bit to be desired. It is fading much quicker than it probably should do, and it does look a little bit patchy, which is unfortunate because they've actually loomed the dial well this time around. Yeah, it's always one or the other, isn't it? I mean, I'm probably going to land this with a 6. That's because the dial is quite well loomed. The handset definitely needs some improvement. Now, moving away from the head of the watch, we move on to the bracelet, and it is a very simple oyster style bracelet. We've seen this 1,000 times around with Pagani Design. Fold out Rolex style clasp, as you can see with that machined fold out there. These are screw links, solid end pieces as well. Nice level of brushing, which does match very well to the lugs and female end links on these pieces, which is nice to see. It does aid in the wearability of this watch. Speaking of wearability, let's get it on wrist. So as you may guess, this one is a very, very easy wear. It would very much be an everyday watch. It's never going to get in the way of anything in your lifestyle. It would fit in very well in an office scenario as well as an everyday exploration type of scenario, sporty type of watch. It's one of those do whatever the hell you want it to do watches, especially with that 200 meter water resistance. It really does aid the watch's capabilities quite a bit, and I think that for £100 you are getting quite a good deal. Now, with that being said, there are a couple of things that I would have liked to have seen improved. Firstly, obviously, as I've mentioned, the loom on the handset isn't the best, and that is unfortunate because they have done well on the dial itself. Now, aside from that, a couple of things that really did let me down about the piece is the high polish bezel. Now, that is going to scratch up pretty quickly, especially if you use this watch as it is intended to be worn, and that kind of lets it down, especially considering the Ranger does have the brushed bezel. I mean, it's part of the wearability, the rugged and do anything type of design of that watch. It lasts much longer than a polished bezel would. The crystal in this one really didn't need to be as big as it is. I think that a much smaller crystal, or maybe just a flat dome crystal, would have really aided the watch's dimensions quite a bit, and even the visibility of the watch and the aesthetic of it. I think that, yeah, kind of, I understand why they've added that in, because there's a more premium aesthetic piece or more premium aesthetic part. However, does take away a little bit from the design, in my opinion. Finally, and this is the big one for me, the dial, that gloss effect. If this was a matte dial, I think that it really would have hit home with that design, and I think that it would have been an absolutely incredible piece to look at. However, I feel like the gloss dial on this one really does kind of cheapen it, and that's a shame also. Now, this one has been sent to me by the flagship store on Aliexpress in the sale, £100. They have also given me a discount code, which I will link in the description. If you use that, you should be able to get another $10 off your purchase. Make sure you use that because obviously we all love saving money, don't we? So there we have it, guys. As I say, they have missed a couple of little notes for me on this watch. However, it is a very pretty looking piece, and my opinion isn't going to be the same as everyone else's. I do really like this piece, and I think it's a very, very wearable watch, and honestly, that's not something that you always get on the market. I think this could perfectly be a everyday wear for myself, especially with those really perfect dimensions for my type of wrist size. Now, if you wanted to pick this one up, as I mentioned, I have linked it in the description. That is an affiliate link. I'm pretty sure you know how they work by now, and I'm very grateful if you use it. This one has been sent to me for free, so keep that in mind. With that out of the way, one last thing for me to mention. If you wanted to pick up any of the pre-owned watches that I have, any of the old review pieces that I may have still with me, then I have an online store that is linked in the description. Also, the watchguystore.com. Use JTWG10 to get 10% off on there. Thanks for watching this one, guys. Please remember to subscribe to the channel. I really greatly appreciate that, as well as I appreciate all of your comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.